Good day, everyone. My name is Geraldine Salvano Cadilli, and I will discuss to you one of the human issues that affect in the aspect of education in the Philippines. So, next, according to a study by the Philippine Institute for the Development Studies, or the PIDS, there is a strong correlation between education and poverty reduction. The study found that the increasing access to education can lead to better employment opportunities and higher income levels, ultimately leading to poverty reduction. So this simply means that according to their study, that if you are a degree holder, there's a possibility outside a specific department or a company will offer you a big opportunity to work. For example, if you are a degree holder in education, there's a possibility that a specific university or a public school or a private school will offer you to teach and will give you the higher income level. So there's a possibility that it will lead to a poverty reduction. So when we talked about poverty reduction, it will listen to every individual who have a job or who are employed in a specific job that they are in. It will lessen their it will give them a better lifestyle. So next, okay, the Philippines, a developing country in Southeast Asia with a population over 100 million people, has a long history of colonization, and we are all aware of that, with Spain being a first colonial power to arrive in the country in 1521. So, the Spanish colonial period lasted over 300 years, so during which the country's education was heavily influenced by the Catholic Church, and the Spanish government established schools that primarily catered to the Spanish elite, and education was mainly focused in religious instruction. So, because we are all Filipinos are colonized by that time, so we need to follow their education system by that time, and since they were the since we were colonized by the Spanish by the Spanish elite, we should also follow their order. So after the Spanish-American War in 1898, the Philippines was ceded to the United States. So United States followed. The American colonial period brought significant changes to the country's education system. So there's a huge changes that happened. So with the government introducing a public school system that aimed to provide education to all Filipinos. So the American government established public schools that followed an English language curriculum. So that's why we are all required, right, to study in English. And since we were in elementary and until now, one of the language that we are using is English, or the second language that we are using, which is the English, and which aim to prepare Filipinos for the workforce and eventually lead to their assimilation into American society. So since we were being colonized by these American people, so we need to follow at the same time their rules and regulations. So the Philippine education system underwent further changes after the country gained independence in 1946. The government implemented reforms that aimed to make the education accessible to all Filipinos, and regardless of their socio-economic status. So in the 1897 Constitution, Philippine Constitution states that the state shall protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels and shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all. So this means that in this Philippine Constitution 1897, that every Filipinos has the accessible in the quality of education. However, uh, we cannot force that because not everyone has the capacity to send themselves in school because of lack of resources. And one of the most common problems in one of the most common problems that we face is especially in financial problem. So despite all the efforts to make education a key priority in the country since independence in 1946, the Philippine education system continues to face significant challenges that prevent many Filipinos from accessing education. So this is one of the common effects or the challenges that we face in the Philippines. So these are the educational challenges in the Philippines. First is poverty, ongoing armed conflicts, lack of resources and infrastructure, and the COVID-19. So poverty. So when we talked about poverty, it has a long, persuasive and intractable challenge in the Philippines, and education remains one of the most critical casualties to this social malady. So the Philippine Statistic Authority has reported that approximately 16.7 million Filipinos live below the poverty line. This is one of the most common challenges in education, with many of them struggling to make ends met on a daily basis. Consequently, education becomes an affordable luxury for many families, especially those living in the most impoverished communities. So the inability to send their children to school forces them to work instead, perpetuating the cycle of poverty for generations. So I've read an article. I forgot who's the author of that. So one of the common problem that we face, especially in our country here in the Philippines, is this so-called of lack of financial support, especially in a specific family. We are all aware of this, and we are all very familiar with this kind of situation. And the problem there is the government. We cannot blame everything to the government since they're also doing their job. However, they must also take any action, and not the huge, not the the big one, but for me, it's very important that we citizens here in the Philippines could also done something that we should also aware if 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 our future kids will face this kind of situation, what will gonna happen. So we should be more aware on what will gonna happen in the future. So the the Philippine oh sorry the Philippine government has launched several initiatives aimed to addressing the problem of poverty and its impact on education. So they're also doing their job, and we cannot per se na okay, let's blame it everything to the government. Well, as an individual, we should also done something for that, because um, we are here to help each other, not to blame every individuals who are especially those in the higher authorities. So another study of Howlett et al. In 2018 looked at the impact of the 4Ps program and the education outcomes of children living in poor communities. So there is a program that was introduced, and yeah, the study found that the program has a positive effect in both school enrollment and attendance, with children from beneficiary households having higher rates of school attendance than their counterparts from non-beneficiary households. So the study also followed, or that the program, showed that the program also had a significant impact on the children's nutritional status, and it helped families to afford healthier for food options. So it has a positive impact. um, I I am one of those beneficial before in a um, four piece, yeah, I was one of those beneficiaries. So but you know, we cannot also rely on that um, beneficial, because whether we like it or not, we should also done something that will help us to provide our daily needs. So despite the success of the four-piece program, however, there are some experts argue that the cash transfers alone are not enough to address the root causes of poverty. Would you agree with this? I might agree. I might agree with this because, um, based on my experience, based on what I've noticed and observed around, that there are kulang ra gud siya, and it's not enough for is a one family inside na that will help them to meet to sustain their daily needs. So they emphasize the need for more comprehensive poverty education reduction strategies, that such as creating more opportunities, job, and improving social services. So this also helped the family to work at the same time to provide their daily needs. So according to a study by Ibon Foundation in 2019, that the poverty reduction in the Philippines requires multi-dimensional approach that includes investment in education, healthcare, and social services, as well as policies that support job creation and income growth. This means that in the aspect of this program might help the individual to support their daily needs at the exact amount. So, combined with the above, it is easy to see that poverty remains a major obstacle to education in the Philippines, with millions of families struggling to afford basic. Yes, this is one of these, this is one of the common challenge, especially in the education part, the poverty. But there's a saying, diba, poverty is not a hindrance in education, because we can do something like, you can, as a college student, we can not rely everything to our parents. You might find a part-time job, because I've done that also back then, that I've tutored a student outside just to sustain my daily needs. So there's no such thing na you cannot provide for yourself. You can provide yourself if you had enough the courage to work hard, and perseverance is one of the most important if you have a goal in the future. So next is the ongoing armed conflicts. We are all familiar with this, especially what happened in Marawi Siege. One of these common problem that we face is this conflict, armed conflicts. We cannot prevent this kind of instances, since this exists, or it existed back then. It's one of the social issues. So, the ongoing armed conflict in some parts of the Philippines has created many challenges in the education sector. Yes, in particular, the situation has greatly impacted the lives of many children, not just children, but families, making it difficult for them to continue their studies. Exactly. Because for me, um, I don't know if anyone would agree with this kind of statement that I have, that um, sometimes people will choose to create something that is unnecessary just to, satisfy themselves. I don't know what's the reason why some of the people wanted to create conflicts. Yes, conflicts really existed, um, particularly in a specific country or in a specific area here in the Philippines, that they really wanted to speak out. They really wanted to voice out themselves by harming anyone, or by creating something that is not, that is not necessary. So, um, with the schools being forced to close, and students being displaced, the government has recognized the need for alternative education systems that can provide access to education, those who have been affected by the conflict. So yes, the government made a decision to make all the learners to have the access in education, especially those who have an effect in the who are involved in the conflict, or who are affected by the conflict. So one of the measures implemented by the government to address this issue is the alternative learning system, or we call it ALS. So sorry, the ALS is a, we all know that it is a non-formal education system designed to provide a basic education and skills training to out-of-school youth and adults who have not completed their primary or secondary education. So in ALS, yes, it might be a non-formal education, but it is very it is one of the most helpful uh, education that will give to those who are um, those learners who have not completed their primary and their secondary education. So this program is designed to reach marginalized communities, including those affected by the armed conflict, who may not have access to traditional formal education. So this is one of the most common problem that existed even up until now, especially in some Mindanao parts. So the ALS program has been successful is that it has been able to adapt the unique challenges faced by learners in conflict affected areas. Although ALS is a non-formal education, but there are lots of successful ALS students who, one of they got a top-notch part nga, naging part sila sa top-notcher. I've read an article that it was part of the Cordillera. I don't know, pero student siya sa, he was one of the, ng naka-eskwela og ALS nga, naka-graduate siya, and he was one of the top-notcher after he got the license in education. So one of the reasons, this is one of the reasons why that ALS has been a successful program. So I would agree that the for example, the program has developed a modules that are designed to be delivered in a modular format. So making it easier for learners to access education if even if they have to relocate due to conflict. So next is the lack of resources and infrastructure. So yes, the education challenges is one of this is the lack of resources and infrastructure. Another important issue is facing by the education system is in the Philippines is lack of resources and infrastructure in many schools, especially in rural areas. So the challenge is widespread and affects a significant number of schools in the country. So according to the report by the Department of Education, around 5,000 schools in the Philippines have no access to electricity, with 10,000 have no access to to yeah, potable water. So this lack of basic amenities puts students and teachers at a significant disadvantage, so affecting the quality of education they receive. So we are aiming for, especially in the K to 12, that they are aiming for quality education. The many schools of lack adequate classrooms, textbooks, and teaching materials, making it challenging for students to learn effectively. The challenge is not only limited in rural areas, but it also present in urban areas. So whether we like it or not, this is one of the common problem that has been challenged, especially in the aspect of education, that they lacked really on resources, especially those in the rural areas. I've known one of the teacher na it's really hard for them to give the quality education, especially some of the resources has been one of the lacking sa part nga giilang tudluan. So students are, yeah, the students or the learners are capable to learn. They are very passionate about in learning new things. However, there's a lack of resources, which is the government failed to do so. But yeah, there might be, there might be a solution for that, a possible. So a possible solution that might lead for a better solution. So to address this issue, the Philippine government has invested infrastructure projects to improve schools facilities, which is it really happened, especially in those rural areas and the urban areas. I've noticed that there are lots of buildings that been created until now, because there's a K to 12 and there's a lot of infrastructures that they're building. We cannot also say na, like what I've said a while ago, that we cannot blame everything to the government. Unless we've done something for that aspect. So, the government has constructed classrooms, provided electricity, and installed water system in schools that lacked these amenities. So the Department of Education has implemented a K-12 program, which aims to provide students with a quality education that is globally competitive. So the program includes initiatives such as the provision for free textbooks, school facilities, and teacher training. So it is helpful also for all the learners to, have a conducive and, a friendly environment, especially in the classroom. So every learners will have access to textbooks and facilities, and they'll be able to learn more. So the above mentioned about the ALS, or the alternative learning system that provide a quality education, there's a possibility that each of them will lead the students to be competitive, and at the same time they'll be able to give a specific, creativity, especially inside the classroom. They'll be able to participate well, and at the same time they'll be able to collaborate with their classmates or with the community, especially if they're given a task or a responsibility by the teacher. So to conclude, the lack of resources and infrastructure in schools is a significant challenge facing education in the Philippines, particularly in rural areas. We cannot prevent this kind of instances that one of the problem that happened, especially in the rural areas, na uh, they'll not be able, especially those learners who are not, that well enough in, especially in sending themselves in a school. So there's a possibility that they lack in financial support is in their family. So this program, especially in us, this program is a vital, ensuring that every Filipino has access in basic education, which is good and which is very helpful also for all those learners who want to pursue their studies, uh, even though they lacked in, financial support. One of the most common problem here I've noticed na um, some some areas in rural, or some rural areas in the Philippines, kana ganing mutabok pa sila og sapa, mutabok pa sila og, as in, a river, or basta something, maglisod sila og uh, maglisod sila og sulod og eskwela sayo. It's because their home or their place is too far away, or too far from school, from their school. So naay possibility nga maglakaw sila, mulabang pa og sapa, nga ilokduhon pa ning ilahang bag, and in order para dili ilang mabasa to ilang libro, ilang mga notebook. So pag magbagyo, maglisod sila og labang, kay pag magkuan, maglisod og sulod sa klase, kay basa na pod. So this is one of these, common problem that we face in the Philippines. Kulang lagi sa resources and infrastructure. But yeah, I think the government also done something for that, to solve that problem. So I would say that the government also implemented several initiatives to address this issue, and of course there is still need there is still need for greater investment in education, which is good, to ensure that every child has the access to quality education. Providing access to education is very vital, ensuring that every Filipino has the opportunity to reach their full potential and contribute to the development of the country. So, according, sabi nga ni Jose Rizal, ang kabataan ay ang pag-asa ng bayan. Yes, this I absolutely agree with that statement. However, it will not be, it will not fulfill without the help and the support of the government and the family. So I would say it's very important to, to, as a future educator, for me as a future educator, one of the important thing that I've learned, especially in the area of education, we cannot say na all teachers or all instructors or professors can cater all the problems of every learners. We cannot do that, or they cannot do that, because they have also, focusing on something to provide the needs of their daily needs, especially specific family that they have. However, as a future educator, we are trying to done something to help our learners to pursue their studies and to learn more, and to dream, and to hit the goal that they need, and the opportunity that they want for their lives. So poverty is not the hindrance in education. At least we help in some, not in a big way, but in a little way, as long as we help our learners to achieve their dreams and to pursue what they want in the future. So yeah, next is the COVID-19. So we're all familiar with this, right? After what happened back 2019, 2020, March, if I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, if March 20 ba to siya, 2020, na gi-prevent ang pagsulod sa klase, especially inside the campus, or especially in the Norso, that time nga gi-stop ang gigamit na ang online class. So nag-module mangguro mi ato at that time. So there's a possibility that when the COVID-19 really expanded, or really, give a huge problem, specifically here in the Philippines, the pandemic has undoubtedly brought numerous challenges to the education system of the Philippines. I agree. So there's a affecting not only the students but also the teachers, parents, and educational institutions. So in March 2020, the Philippine government ordered the closure of schools to curb the spread of the virus. As a result, millions of students had to shift to online or distance learning, which was a struggle for those without access to technology or reliable internet connection, which is absolutely true. Because while we're doing an online class, I would say I've learned something, but not the whole thing, not the whole lesson that I've learned, because it's really different, especially in the actual school, that you can communicate physically with the teacher and the students, and your classmates at the same time, and there's a cooperative and collaboration that will happen. So in online class, I think there's a connection. Yeah, there might be a connection that will happen because you will gonna communicate through online, but it's quite different because some also might have no access in internet or technology. So there's also a disadvantage to that. So one of the major issues that the pandemic has exposed in digital divide. Yeah. So the digital divide refers to the gap between those who have access to digital technologies and those who do not. So advantage ni siya sa mga estudyante nga na internet connection, they have their cell phones, their laptops or computers, and disadvantage po siya sa part sa mga students nga walay maglisod og connect, walay wifi, walay laptop, walay computers, and dili pa tarong ang kuan sa cellphone, dili pa tarong ang cellphone kay murag kagubaon na pod. So in the context of education, the digital divide means that the students who lack access to technology and the internet are at the advantage compared to those who have them. So dako kay siya disadvantage sa mga naa. So according to this survey conducted by the Department of Education in July 2020, only 64% of the students who responded the access to the smartphone, while 55% have the access to a laptop or desktop computer. This means that a significant portion of the student population is left out of the digital learning experience. So, although naa siya advantage kay everyone will, knowledgeable enough to use the technology. So, I didn't even know how to use Google Classroom back then. I didn't even know how to use Edmodo, the Google Meet, the Zoom, something like that. And it happened that the online class is going, we really need to use this kind of apps, and we need to participate, right? So, and there's a really advantage because I've learned also at the same time from those using those apps that will help me also to be knowledgeable in using the technology. So to To address the digital divide challenges posed by the pandemic, the Department of Education has implemented various distance learning programs. So there is a DepEd TV, a program that provides televised lesson to the students in grade 1 to 10. A DepEd TV was launched in October 2020 and is aired on the free channel. So meaning they've done something also, which they've done something right also. So there's a solution that that happened. So apart from the initiatives, the government also partnered with telecommunications companies to provide free internet access to public school teachers and students. Would you agree? Yes, I agree, but there's a problem also at the same time because hinay kayo ang signal. So, in May 2020, the Department of Education signed a memorandum of agreement with Globe Telecom and Smart Communications to provide a free internet access to public school teachers and students until the end of the year. The initiative aimed to ensure that the teachers and students have access to online resources and can participate in online class. Yes, they've done something for that. However, there's I would say not a major problem, but a minor problem also that telecommunications, especially the Globe Telecom and the Smart Communications, because there's an issue about this two companies, right? So it was former President Rodrigo Duterte that time that he announced on his SONA by that time that he will gonna dissolve these two companies up until they will not gonna solve the issues that they have, because hinay kay signal dayon. There's a problem that happened. These two companies really have a bad feedback by the users. So to address this issue, experts suggest that the government should provide laptops and tablets to students who lack access to technology. So, which it also happened, especially in Orso, because I've noticed inside the library there's a computer there, there's a tablets that every learners or every students are allowed to use those gadgets. So the Department of Education has recognized this need and has launched a tablet program for public school teachers and non-teaching personnel. So they're also allowed to use these gadgets in order to communicate with individuals or the students and the learners, the students and the teachers. So, however, some argue that the program should be expanded to include students who have a lax access to technology. So this is one of the most common problem because we were doing that 2020 until 2022, I think. And yes, the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the digital divide in the Philippines, especially in the education system. So with so many students lacking to access the technology and the internet, the government also implemented the various initiatives. So such as the DepEd TV and the DepEd Commons, and also the experts suggest that there's more needs to be done, and it also particularly for the communities. So providing laptops and tablets to the students without the access to technology is a crucial step towards creating a more equitable and inclusive learning environment. So in conclusion, the challenges facing sector in the Philippines are complex and multifaceted. So raging the poverty and to armed conflict, the lack of resources and infrastructure, and digital divide, addressing these challenges will require a comprehensive and multidimensional approach, including strategies to create more job opportunities, improve social services, and support education and skills development, as well as providing alternative learning opportunities in the conflict affected areas, and they're investing in education infrastructure. So bridging the digital divide is also essential, particularly in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. So by ensuring that all Filipinos has equal to access to education, the country can support international organizations and the private sector. And the most continue and they must also continue to prioritize education and invest in its future. So the difference between the Philippines and the United States education system. So the Philippine education system can be described as a dynamic one. So when we talked about dynamic one, there's a change that happened rapidly. So the implementation of the K-12 program of DepEd and subsequent ratification of Kindergarten Education Act of 2012 and Enhanced Basic Education Act in 2013, the basic education today takes 13 years to complete 1 year of kindergarten, 6 years of elementary education, 4 years of junior high school, and 2 years of senior high school. Senior high school for children aged 5 to 17. So meanwhile, higher education requires even as little as 2 years, like associate degree, or as much as longer bachelor's degree or master's degree or doctorate. So to complete in universities and colleges, and much shorter in technical and vocational schools. So that's one of the characteristics. So the difference between the Philippines and United States education system. So as someone who lived here whole life in the Philippines, I would say that I am very much familiar with how education works in my home country. From kindergarten to some years of high school, I got the full experience of being a student here. But as my family moved in the United States by the year of 2018, this is based on the experience of Miss Angel Owen Turner. The life as a student in the Philippines was put to an end, and I had to start over again in a new environment. So there were a lot of adjustments to be made, but at the same time, I got to grow and widen my horizons as an individual. So on the top of that, I was able to differentiate how both countries' education works. So people tend to ask me questions about this topic, usually about the difference or which I prefer the most. Is one better than the other, or would I say that it was worth it that I moved? So since I attended the public school, a high school in both countries, my knowledge is limited to that public schools only. So I would also like to state that all information that I will be giving out is solely based on my experience and a bit of research. So every school is different, that one's rules might differ from one another. So one of the difference here is the expenses. So most schools in the Philippines require a compulsory fee for every student to pay. So if you're wondering where the money goes, let's just say that the government doesn't provide enough money for the school to pay its monthly expenses like electricity and water bills. So the fee also includes your payment for your school uniform as the requirement for students and even the faculty to wear. So the PE uniform, books, extra money for school maintenance, and your student ID. Since we are in the free tuition, since we were experiencing a free tuition nowadays, so there's a possibility that everything is free except for a research student ID, and at the same time your extra money. So school buses also aren't common there, but and most students rely on public transportation, which is true. Or if you're lucky enough that your school is near your house, you can just walk. You can only get you can only you can only get your driver's license when you turn 18. But either way, most are not encouraged to drive. So on the top that, you also need to bring or buy your own receipt or lunch food. So based on my research, as of 2015 and 2016, the US government spent about $13,847 per public school student, which is enough to cover the basic necessities of students. So additionally, here in the US, students are not required to wear school uniforms in public schools, but we also can't just wear anything that we please, since we have a dress code. So in most schools, food is provided. Wow. So transportation also is wise. So students get to ride the school bus. Also, when they turn to 16, most students can get their driver's license and to drive to school. So in short, high school education isn't free in the Philippines. This contrasts with the United States system, where you don't need to pay for most things. So inside the classroom, teachers are much more strict in the Philippines. Would agree. So most don't prefer a friendly relationship between them and their students in order to emphasize the gap between their status, which is good, but there's a disadvantage also to that. So in this way, they also expect that the students will respect them more and take them more seriously when it comes to learning, which is good. Talking back or disagreeing with your teachers is frowned upon and is very common in many other Asian countries. So you're not allowed to talk back with your teachers because it's one of a disrespectful way. So in America, it's an opposite in some ways. Respect is given by the student. Respect is given, but the students have more freedom to express their opinions in class and have a friendlier relationship with their mentors or their teachers. Communication between the teachers and the student is a huge importance in school to avoid misunderstanding and also to encourage learning from each other. So in short, schools in the Philippines have stricter management than of the United States. So in the Philippines, every grade level is divided from each other, and the students from the same grade levels are divided into sections based on who excels the most in their final average grade from the year before. So there's a star section, so we call it given much a tougher treatment and more advanced level of learning. So the lower section have it easier depending on how much they can take. So we also have a homeroom in which we have the main teacher, and that is that is in charge of the students in a section. So the average class size is 40 students per classroom. So students learn to, as a class, don't change classmates every period like how it is in the United States. So in the United States, things are more different. So because some schools don't have homerooms and students aren't divided from each other. So every period you learn with a new set of people. So your classmates depend on which class you take, and you can be mixed up with the students with the different grade levels. So also here, we don't have a ranking system. The grades of every student are confidential and cannot be announced by the teacher. So this is to avoid competition and humiliation inside the class, which is also good, and which should follow this kind of rules. The average class size in the United States is 20 students per classroom. So imagine the difference between the Philippines and the United States. Inside the classroom, there's in the Philippines there's a 40 per students inside the classroom. In the United States there is a 20 per students inside the classroom. So there's a big huge difference. So let's discuss the outside the classroom. So in the Philippines we have a diverse culture. Yes, and almost every month we celebrate something. So, something like Nutrition Month, um, Buwan ng Wika, something like that. And as of usual, everything is turned into a competition, which is, yes. Like for example, every August is to celebrate Buwan ng Wika, or the Week of the Philippine Language. Grade levels compete with each other through their own prepared performance. Some sing, some dance, and some even write and recite their own poems and relate to the event. And also we have to do our preparations outside the school, and we won't be given any time during class hours. Students also assigned to organize every event, which are taken very seriously. So on the other hand, events that they consider not necessary for students to celebrate aren't given much attention, like prom. So sometimes we wouldn't have any time for those kind of events, or administration would just prefer for us to spend those time on learning. In the United States, fun is encouraged alongside learning. So the school makes sure that every event is well prepared and most students engage in it. So unlike the Philippines, here we have a homecoming, and starts with what is called the Spirit Week. Yeah. Each day of the week we have a theme in which uh students are free to be creative on what to wear. On Friday, we have Pep Rally, where our athletes are introduced, and everyone can participate in various entertaining activities. And at night, when a football game is held, and our homecoming court is introduced. And for the most awaited part, the homecoming dance, the students dress up in a semi-formal attire and come with their dates or friends. Alumni also encouraged to come, hence the name of the event. So there's a question that if you're still asking which is the better one, according to her, for me, I would say that it's just a matter of preference for every person. So there are things that I much prefer in one than the other, and vice versa. I miss the competitiveness that I experienced in the Philippines, though I love that I'm having fun and developing my social skills here in the United States, according to her. Either way, I still learn that's what matters most. But now it's up to you to decide which one fits your preference. So, in the education in the Philippines and the United States is quite different, because we are and we are all familiar with, a strict mode in the aspect of the education system here in the Philippines. So we all heard a lot of, issues, like previous previous uh previous months ago, like there's a confidential fund that is raising, and everyone get paranoid about what happened, because everyone is asking where's the confidential fund, and how does it give the benefits of every learners. And we could also question that what will gonna happen if that confidential fund will release. And it's a huge money. So I think that the important for this challenges that we face in the educational system in the Philippines must give an attention and a solution for every individual. We are, yeah, I would say that there's no such thing as perfect government, but we can also done something that is a solution perhaps for the education system that is that we have right now. So I would say there is no a good outcome if we will focus on the negative side. We should also see the positive or the light side of this challenge, because I would say dili raman ang Philippines ang naka problema when it comes about the educational system. A lot of countries, not just in the Philippines, but some countries also experience difficulties in education. However, as long as we pursue to learn and to study, so there's a possibility that we can also help other also to to pursue their studies in fulfilling their educational attainment. And this could also benefit for them in the future, that they will get the exact job or the the dream job that they want. So I would also share to you, wala lang na ko siya napildi sa PowerPoint, but I will just also share to you the education system in Canada and in the Philippines. But there's also a big difference, and we could also I will also give to you the sources of that after this slide. I'll be giving to you you can also read the article about the comparative study in educational system in Canada and the Philippines. We are all aware that in Canada, their educational system is very, they're facilitating, the education in Canada is very high and priority of the government. And also the country boasts a state-run system of public education, and one that is provided, funded, and administered by federal and provincial and local governments. So I have my auntie there and uncle there, that their kids are, their children are also, the government also facilitate their education, and which also very there's a positive feedback on that also. So the educational system in Canada is quite really advanced, and at the same time the government focus on that area. So I'll give in to you the source of that here in the resource page. You can also research the following sources that I've been given here. You can also search for that, and you can read all the articles and all the readings there with full of information. So I hope you learned something, and thank you for listening, and I hope you've learned something from this discussion. So thank you so much, and God bless.